Advertising has always been more than just selling products. It's about influencing minds, shaping desires, and crafting emotional triggers that make people act without even realizing why. The world of advertising is built on psychology, and while some techniques are harmless persuasion, others tap into what's known as dark psychology, the manipulation of human emotions, biases, and unconscious drives. These psychological tricks are designed to bypass rational thought and make people buy, believe, or behave in ways that serve the advertiser's interests. Behind every catchy jingle, seductive slogan, and perfectly timed image, there's a calculated psychological move aimed at controlling behavior. The essence of dark psychology in advertising lies in understanding how humans think, feel, and make decisions. Advertisers know that most decisions aren't logical, they're emotional. Studies in behavioral psychology show that people buy based on how something makes them feel, not on objective facts. This insight opens the door for manipulation. If emotions drive behavior, then controlling emotions means controlling decisions. So advertisers engineer every part of their campaigns to tap into fear, desire, insecurity, and social pressure. One of the most powerful tools in this manipulation is fear. Fear sells better than logic ever could. Advertisers exploit people's fear of missing out, fear of aging, fear of rejection, and even fear of being left behind socially. For instance, beauty brands often highlight imperfections, wrinkles, or skin conditions that most people wouldn't even notice. Then they present their product as the savior, the only solution to avoid social embarrassment or loss of attractiveness. Insurance companies use similar tactics, showing what could go wrong without their product: accidents, illnesses, or financial ruin. Fear activates the brain's survival instinct, and once that's triggered, people act impulsively. They buy not because they truly need the product, but because they've been made to feel unsafe without it.
Another subtle yet sinister trick is the use of scarcity and urgency. Advertisers have learned that people value things more when they seem rare. Limited time offers, countdown timers, or messages like "only 2 items left" create a sense of pressure that hijacks rational thought. The fear of missing out, known as FOMO, is one of the most exploited emotions in modern marketing. When people see that something is running out or that others are grabbing it fast, their decision-making changes from "do I need this" to "I must act now before it's gone." Online stores, flash sales, and even streaming platforms use this psychological lever daily. It's not about providing value, it's about creating artificial panic to drive immediate action. Advertisers also play with the idea of social proof, the deep psychological need to fit in. Humans are social creatures, wired to follow the crowd for survival. Advertisers use this herd mentality to manipulate behavior. When people see testimonials, influencer endorsements, or high star ratings, they feel that others have validated the choice. If everyone else likes it, it must be good. That's why companies spend millions on influencer marketing, not because the product suddenly improves, but because seeing someone admired or trusted using it taps directly into the desire for social belonging. Even the simple design of platforms like Amazon, where you see bestseller badges or "over 10,000 people bought this," is meant to trigger conformity. It tells your brain that not buying might make you the odd one out. Then there's emotional association, a subtle but extremely manipulative tactic. Advertisers carefully craft associations between their product and powerful emotional experiences. Think of how soft drink commercials show laughter, friendship, and parties, or how car ads highlight freedom, power, and success. The product itself becomes a symbol of those emotions. People don't buy the drink because it tastes better. They buy it because they subconsciously want to feel the joy or confidence shown in the ad. This kind of emotional conditioning works much like Pavlov's experiments with dogs. Over time, just seeing the logo or hearing a jingle triggers the same emotional response: happiness, excitement, or nostalgia. The product becomes emotionally irresistible. Advertisers also play with color psychology to manipulate perception and feelings. Colors carry strong subconscious meanings. Red is associated with excitement, urgency, and passion. That's why it's used in clearance sales in fast food chains. Blue conveys trust and stability, which is why banks and tech companies use it. Green suggests health and calm, making it popular for eco-friendly or wellness brands. Yellow stimulates optimism and energy, but also grabs attention, which is why it's often used for warnings or sales. None of this is random. Entire departments and ad agencies spend time testing which color combinations elicit the most powerful reactions. What seems like aesthetic design is actually psychological engineering.
Another deeply manipulative strategy involves subliminal messaging. Although controversial and often subtle, subliminal advertising plays on the subconscious mind by planting hidden cues, images, words, or sounds that aren't consciously noticed but still influence behavior. A simple example is the strategic placement of certain shapes or objects in an image that resembles something emotionally charged, like a smile or a symbol of power. Even background music tempo can alter how people perceive time while shopping. A slow beat makes them linger longer, increasing spending. Fast beats, on the other hand, create excitement and urgency. These subconscious cues bypass logic entirely, leading people to associate feelings with products without ever realizing it. Repetition is another cornerstone of dark advertising psychology. The human brain is wired to find familiarity comforting. The more often we see or hear something, the more we start to trust it, a phenomenon known as the mere exposure effect. Advertisers exploit this by repeating brand names, slogans, or jingles relentlessly until they stick in memory. Over time, people start preferring familiar brands simply because they feel safer. This is why major corporations spend billions on constant exposure, not necessarily to persuade directly, but to dominate mental real estate. Once a brand is embedded in the subconscious, it becomes the default choice when people shop. Advertisers also use anchoring, a psychological trick that manipulates perception of value. By showing an initial high price or luxury version of a product, they make the regular option seem like a bargain in comparison. This is why you'll see was $199, now $99, or premium plan versus standard plan. The first number acts as an anchor that skews your perception of what's reasonable. You end up feeling like you're saving money even when you're spending more than you intended. Anchoring takes advantage of the brain's inability to evaluate numbers objectively. Instead, we compare them relative to what we see first.
A more deceptive trick is framing, where information is presented in a way that manipulates interpretation. The same fact can be made to sound positive or negative depending on wording. Saying 95% fat-free sounds healthier than contains 5% fat, even though both are identical. Advertisers deliberately frame messages to highlight positives and hide negatives. This trick plays on cognitive biases, leading people to form judgments that favor the product. Pharmaceutical ads, for example, emphasize success rates while minimizing side effects, creating an illusion of safety. Food brands use natural, organic, or made with real ingredients to trigger positive associations, even when those claims are vague or meaningless. The use of sexual imagery is another classic form of dark psychological manipulation. Sex triggers strong emotional and biological responses, and advertisers know that even subtle sexual cues grab attention and create memory retention. People might not consciously remember the product details, but they remember how it made them feel. By linking sexual attraction or desirability with their brand, companies exploit deep evolutionary drives. Perfume ads, luxury cars, and fashion campaigns often rely heavily on this. The product becomes a symbol of status, confidence, and appeal, things people subconsciously crave. Advertisers also prey on insecurity, perhaps the most unethical aspect of dark marketing. By creating problems that didn't exist before, they generate demand for solutions. The beauty industry thrives on this. Decades of marketing have convinced people that normal aging, natural skin texture, or body shapes are flaws to be fixed. Fitness companies use guilt, making people feel inadequate about their bodies. Tech companies create anxiety about being outdated or left behind. Once people internalize these insecurities, they keep buying products to fix problems that were never problems in the first place. This cycle of manufactured dissatisfaction is what keeps entire industries alive. One of the most modern and insidious tactics is personalized manipulation through data tracking. With the rise of digital marketing, advertisers now have access to a psychological profile of nearly every consumer. Algorithms analyze browsing history, interests, fears, and habits to deliver hyper-targeted ads. If someone searches for weight loss once, they'll be flooded with diet ads that exploit body image insecurity. If someone reads about loneliness, they'll see dating app promotions. The algorithmic precision means advertisers no longer have to guess. They can target people at their most vulnerable moments with messages designed specifically to push their emotional buttons. It's dark psychology, powered by technology. Authority bias is another psychological lever frequently pulled by advertisers. People tend to trust perceived experts or authority figures. That's why ads feature doctors recommending toothpaste, scientists endorsing skincare products, or celebrities praising supplements. The authority figure acts as a psychological shortcut. Instead of evaluating the product ourselves, we rely on their supposed expertise. This trick works because it reduces mental effort and gives an illusion of credibility. Even fake authority symbols, like people wearing lab coats or using scientific language, can boost perceived trustworthiness. It's not truth that sells, it's the appearance of truth.
Another clever form of manipulation is the foot in the door technique. Advertisers get people to agree to small commitments first, which increases the likelihood of bigger commitments later. For example, signing up for a free trial. Downloading an app or subscribing to a newsletter doesn't seem like much, but once people take that small action, they've psychologically invested. Later, when asked to upgrade, buy, or share personal data, they're more likely to comply because saying yes feels consistent with their earlier behavior. This technique exploits the human need for internal consistency, the desire to appear rational and self-consistent in our actions. Advertisers also use contrast effects to shape perception. They'll show an unattractive, low-quality option first, followed by their product, which then looks superior by comparison. Real estate agents, for example, sometimes show clients a terrible house before showing one they actually want to sell. Suddenly, the second option looks perfect. Online stores use this too, displaying expensive items before mid-range ones to make the latter seem affordable. This manipulation works because humans judge value relative to context, not in isolation. Modern advertising has evolved into psychological warfare, blending emotional manipulation with advanced technology. Ads are no longer just messages, they're experiences designed to capture attention, implant ideas, and alter behavior. Social media platforms amplify this by feeding users content that triggers emotions like anger, envy, or desire, all powerful motivators for engagement and consumption. Even the endless scrolling feature of apps is designed to exploit dopamine cycles, keeping users trapped in psychological loops. The longer people stay hooked, the more ads they see, and the more their emotions can be manipulated.
What makes these techniques so dangerous is their invisibility. Most people believe they're immune to advertising, that they make rational decisions, but advertisers rely on this illusion of control. The best manipulation happens when the target doesn't realize they're being manipulated. Dark psychology works precisely because it operates in the shadows of the mind, nudging choices subtly and consistently. Over time, it shapes not only what people buy, but how they think, what they value, and how they see themselves.
The line between persuasion and manipulation in advertising has become increasingly blurred. Persuasion appeals to reason. Manipulation exploits emotion. But in a world flooded with messages competing for attention, advertisers have found that logic is too weak a tool. Emotion, fear, and desire work faster and deeper. The more that psychology is weaponized in marketing, the more consumers lose autonomy over their own choices. Every click, every scroll, every image seen online is a potential psychological trigger carefully tested to maximize emotional impact and profit. In the end, the use of dark psychology in advertising reveals a profound truth about human nature, that people are not rational beings who occasionally feel, but emotional beings who occasionally think. Advertisers have learned to master those emotions, turning them into predictable responses. The real product being sold isn't a car, a phone, or a face cream. It's control. Control over attention, over desire,